Once upon a time, and don't you roll your eyes at that, because every true thing begins with those words. There was a boy named Eli who lived at the bottom of a very tall mountain. Every single morning, Eli would wake up, look out his tiny window, and see that mountain sitting there. Big, silent, enormous. And every single morning, his mother would pack his backpack full of things he had to carry to the top. There was a stone labeled, "What People Think of You." There was a brick labeled, "All the Things You Haven't Done Yet." There was a heavy jar of water labeled, "Your Fears." And somewhere at the very bottom of the bag, almost invisible, was a tiny seed wrapped in old cloth. "Mama," Eli asked one morning, cinching the straps tight, "why do I have to carry all of this? The other children don't carry anything." His mother smiled, the way only mothers can, like she knows something the universe hasn't announced yet. "They carry things too, my love," she said softly. "You just can't see their bags." Now, climbing a mountain with a heavy pack is not a poetic thing in the beginning. It is not beautiful. It is not inspiring. It is just hard. Eli's legs burned. His shoulders ached. Twice he tripped on loose rocks and skinned his knees. A group of children playing at the mountain's base laughed when he stumbled. "Where are you going with all that?" one of them called out. "He'll never make it to the top." Eli kept walking. Not because he was brave, he wasn't. Not because he was strong, he didn't feel it. He kept walking because, deep down, there was a quiet voice, smaller than a whisper, steadier than a heartbeat, that just kept saying, "One more step, one more step, one more step." There's a secret about that voice. It lives in every single one of us. Most people never hear it because the world is too loud. But the moment you start climbing, the moment you take the first step towards something that scares you, it wakes up. Halfway up the mountain, Eli sat down on a flat rock to rest. His bag felt heavier than ever. He reached inside and pulled out the stone, the one labeled "What People Think of You," and stared at it. It was ugly, gray and jagged and cold. An old woman appeared from behind a pine tree. She moved slowly, but her eyes were quick. The kind of eyes that had seen 100 winters and found something funny in every single one. "Heavy?" she asked, nodding at the stone. "Very," said Eli. She sat beside him and held out her hand. He placed the stone in it. She turned it over once, twice, then said, "Do you know how much this weighs when you set it down?" Eli shook his head. "Nothing," she said. "It only weighs something when you're holding it." She placed it on the ground between them. "Other people's opinions, boy. They are just rocks someone else picked up and handed to you. You don't have to take them. You don't have to carry them. You can always put them down." Eli looked at the stone on the ground. Then he looked at his bag. He reached in and pulled out the brick, "All the Things You Haven't Done Yet," and set it beside the stone. And just like that, the bag felt lighter. But listen, this is not one of those stories where everything gets easy after the old woman. No, because life is not one of those stories either. A storm rolled in from the east. Dark clouds swallowed the sun. The wind howled through the pine trees like it was angry at them personally. Rain came down sideways, and the trail turned to mud, and Eli slipped and fell, really fell this time, and the jar broke, and his fears spilled out all over the mountain path. He sat in the mud and looked at all his fears scattered around him. Fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten, fear of going all the way up and finding nothing at the top, fear of what his life would look like if he turned around now. He cried. Right there on the muddy mountain, in the pouring rain, this boy cried. And you know what? That is allowed. That is human. That is not weakness. That is the honest sound a person makes when they are doing something hard and real. Here's what nobody tells you about storms. They don't last because they can't. A storm is made of energy, and energy always moves. Your storms, the ones inside your chest, work the same way. Feel them. Name them. And then watch them move through. The rain slowed, then stopped, and the mountain smelled like something clean and new. Eli stood up. His bag still had the jar in it, now empty, but empty jars weigh almost nothing. He started walking again. Near the top, Eli met someone unexpected. Another boy coming down the mountain. Older, tired-looking in a satisfied kind of way. "You made it up?" Eli asked. "3 times," said the boy, who was not really a boy anymore, but had once been one. He was a man now, with laugh lines around his eyes and mud still on his boots. "Is it worth it?" Eli asked. "The top?" The man tilted his head, like the question surprised him. "The top is wonderful," he said, "but it's not really the point, is it?" Eli frowned. "Then what is?" The man gestured behind Eli, at the path he had already walked, at the stones left behind, the broken jar, the muddy slide, the exact place where the old woman had sat. "That," he said simply. "All of that. That is who you are now. That is what you built. The top is just where you stand to see it clearly." He smiled, nodded once, and walked on down the mountain. Eli stood there for a moment, then reached into his bag. The seed in the old cloth was still there, still small, still quiet, still alive. And then Eli reached the top. There was no trumpet, no crowd, no one to hand him a medal or take his photograph. Just the wind and the sky and the view. Oh, the view. The whole world spread out beneath him, like a map drawn by someone who loved every inch of it. He could see the village where he started, small now, quiet. He could see the path he had walked, the places he had fallen, the place he had cried, the rock where the old woman had sat. And somehow, looking at it all at once, it did not look like suffering. It looked like a story. He opened his bag one last time, took out the seed, knelt down on the rocky summit, and pressed it into a small crack in the stone. A crack just wide enough, just deep enough, as if the mountain had been waiting for exactly this. Because that is what people who reach the top do, if they are wise. They don't just stand there. They plant something. They leave a seed for the next climber. Now, here is where I stop telling you about Eli, and I start telling you about you. Because you have a mountain. You know you do. Maybe it's a dream you've been circling for years, close enough to see, but always finding a reason to not start the climb. Maybe it's a relationship that needs repair, or a version of yourself you keep putting off becoming. Maybe it's something as specific as starting that business, writing that book, making that phone call you've been avoiding for 6 months. Your bag is heavy. I know it is. You're carrying stones with other people's names on them, bricks made of past failures, jars full of fears with no labels, because some fears are too embarrassing to name out loud. I know. We all carry these things. But here is the truth that Eli's story wants to hand to you right now, with both hands, with no strings attached. The mountain does not move. The bag does not empty itself. The storm does not skip the serious climbers. Every single person who has ever built something, become someone, or changed anything, they climbed in the same mud and the same rain, with the same fears, with the same voice whispering, "You're not ready. You're not enough. Turn around." The only difference, the only one, is that they kept walking anyway. That is not a motivational poster. That is the actual, boring, beautiful truth. One more step, and then another.
And then one more after that.
Start climbing. Someone is watching, taking notes, and finding courage from you.